course, tonight, once again, we're going to speak about the deadly Ebola virus. This after 17 people were killed in the DRC. Once again, let me reintroduce our guest tonight. We have the chief researcher from KEMRI, Dr. Banhaj Ogutu, as well as Peterson Washira, who is a medic who served in Liberia and Sierra Leone. Also joining me all the way from DRC shortly will be Merdi Baraka, who is a resident there. Of course, we have all that lined up for you here. And on our Twitter poll tonight, we're asking you, do you think enough is being done to fight the Ebola virus in Africa? Do you think enough is being done to fight the Ebola virus in Africa? We'd like to hear your feedback on that. Our Twitter poll, our Twitter handle is at KTN News. You can as well tweet me at Yusuf Ibra. The hashtag to use as usual is Bottomline Africa. But now let me begin with our top story tonight. And the death toll from last night's Patel Dam tragedy in Somalia, that is in Nakuru County, right here in Kenya, has now risen to 49, and more people remain unaccounted for after the dam broke its earthen walls and swept through 3 villages. Casualties are receiving treatment in hospital.
A dash to save lives. The old, men, women and children lucky to be alive after the privately owned Patel Dam in Solai, Nakuru County, burst. The dam, sitting on a 1-acre piece of land, broke its earthen walls at around 7:30 p.m. Wednesday, unleashing raging waters which left in their wake death and destruction.
Huu ni mkasa ambao hujaonekana na hujaikuwa umefikiriwa kwa kiwango kikubwa sana.
Homes, businesses, crops, livestock and property such as vehicles were swept away, and hundreds of people were left out in the cold, turned homeless in minutes.
Kusikia mara moja kwa sauti padi ya juu, padi imetoka padi ya juu, ngurumo kubwa sana. Hapo matima yakakadika yote na kukaa kuna giza, kwenye giza. Sasa watu wote wakatoka padi ya juu wakaanza kulia. Watu wanaanza mbio padi ya chini, maji ndio hana kuteremka.
Nyumba zimebomolewa. Hiyo maji imeteremka sana, imekula mahali, yani mahali kumeinama hivyo kidogo.
2 hours after the dam walls broke, water was still flowing from it. As panic and helplessness gripped locals during the night of horror. Daybreak would reveal the real extent of the destruction.
This is a tragedy that touches all of us. Nothing of this kind has happened in our country, at least in my memory and in the history of our nation.
The waters swept through more than 2 kilometers of farmland, affecting 3 low-lying villages, mostly inhabited by casual laborers who work in nearby farms, with estimates putting those affected at more than 3,000 people.
I want to assure the families affected and the leadership here that we will give them all the support, including ensuring there's enough food for the families affected, and also non-food items that will be provided throughout this period of this trauma.
A multi-agency operation bringing together the KDF, regular police, National Youth Service and the Kenya Red Cross continued night and day, as several people remain unaccounted for.
We have instructed the chiefs and the assistant chiefs from this place to ensure that they assist us to establish all our people who lived here and know which members of the families cannot be accounted for, so that within the next 24 hours we are able to conclusively come to an end with this operation.
More than 38 casualties are being treated at the Nakuru County Referral Hospital and the Bahati Sub-County Hospital.
Tuko kwa nyumba kwa tunapika na watoto na mama. Tukasikia mgurumo kutoka huko juu. Kutoka nje ndio hivi. Mimi nikashika watoto wawili, mama mwingine. Tukaanza kukimbia, maji imetufikia. Mara moja nikasikia mama nyuma, kanigonga, nikatupanisha watoto chini. Maji kanisomba.
Maji kikuja, nikatoka, nikakumbuka nimesahau mtoto mmoja. Alikuwa amelala kwa kiti. Ndio niliporudi hapo kumchukua. Ndio nikitoka sasa nikienda kushika hao wengine, maji ikatokelezea hapo. Tukijaribu kukimbia ikatubeba, tukaachana na watoto.
The killer dam used for large-scale irrigation and fish farming is owned by Manskul Patel. It is said to have burst due to the higher volume of water following heavy rains that have been pounding the country.
We have commenced investigations into this to find out whether this is a tragedy we could actually have avoided.
Normally, what we know is that a dam should have some mechanisms that when it's full, should be able to release water. There's a mechanism. I mean, so we want to know whether it went through the necessary regulations.
The Ministry of Education closed several schools, among them Solai Boys High School, as those whose lives changed overnight contemplate on how to pick up the pieces. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
A very shocking incident there. Now an explosion has killed at least 5 people and injured 10 others in a market in Lower Shabelle region, that is in Somalia. Local police are still investigating whether the explosion was caused by a planted bomb or by a suicide bomber. It was not immediately clear who was behind the blast. In past incidents, Al-Shabaab militant group has claimed responsibility. Al-Shabaab is fighting to overthrow Somalia's central government and establish its own rule based on its interpretation of the Islamic law. Now, Mozambique's President Filipe Nyusi set aside political differences to pay tribute to his rival Afonso Lacama and pledged to continue the fragile peace talks he had been holding with the ex-rebel Supremo turned opposition politician. He joined thousands of mourners who flocked to the port city of Beira to pay their last respects to Lacama, a towering figure in the country's political history, who died last week. Lacama led Renamo for nearly 40 years before his unexpected death at the age of 65. He played a key role in Mozambique after it gained independence from Portugal in 1975. Renamo was created in 1976 through a deadly civil war against the Frelimo government until the conflict ended in 1992. In December 2016, Lacama announced a surprise truce with the government, taking the major first step towards a formal peace deal. Lacama recently held talks with Nyusi and was playing a key role in advancing the peace process. Lacama will be buried in his native village of Mangunde, that is southwest of Beira. Now, China's vice president has reiterated China's commitment to partner and invest in Africa's journey to development. Vice President Wang Qishan was speaking at the Forum on China-Africa Local Government Cooperation, where he called on African leaders to establish policies that will leverage trade and cooperation between the two countries for the benefit of local populations. His sentiments were echoed by Chairman of the Council of Governors and Turkana Governor Josephat Nanok, who addressed concerns of Chinese companies dominating the local African markets.
I am here to represent the Council of Governors as the chair. We, together with two of my colleagues, Governor Barakanithi and Governor Busia, and a technical Deputy Governor Mombasa, and a team of senior officers from the authorities. This is our second attendance to China-Africa cooperation meeting. And we're basically here to cooperate and learn more experiences from the Chinese local governments and find synergies of how we can be able to work. China went through a similar process that Kenya went through. And they went through various challenges facing them, poverty, problem of health, education, infrastructure, which Kenya is struggling with now. And with the onset of devolution back home, we are now focused on ensuring that these cyclical problems we've been facing are phased out, and learning from the examples of how China has, within a very short period of time, been able to move away from a food-poor country, poverty, huge poverty levels country, to a country that is on the first
Let me take you over to Bonn, that is in Germany, where United Nations climate change talks edge slightly closer to completing the Paris Agreement work program, including guidelines on how to put the agreement into practice, despite rich countries persistently blocking progress on key issues like finance. Without advances in the talks over commitment of future financial support from rich countries to developing nations who are already facing devastating climate impacts, it became difficult for other areas of the negotiations to progress. Our Foreign Affairs editor, Lilian Rodera, sent us this report earlier from Bonn. Take a look.
Well, I've just stepped away from the main conference area where this round of technical talks on climate negotiations have been going on for the past 2 weeks. Now, what I can authoritatively report is that there has not been convergence on a number of issues. Key among them is the issue of financing. Now, the deadlock is that the developed nations are saying they want to advance funds to developing nations to help them mitigate the effects of climate change. But the technicality is that they want that money to be channeled in form of grants. Now, the developing nations, especially from Africa, are arguing that that will not be possible because you know what the conditionalities that come with grants. It means it is a baggage that has to be paid back. Now, the other issue is that they are saying there is no transparency on the part of the developed nations in form of how and where the sources of financing will come from. Now, we did have a media session with the Executive Secretary of UNFCCC, Ms. Patricia Espinosa, and she was very optimistic that at the end of the day, the developed nations are going to meet their end of the bargain when it comes to helping the developed nations finance the effects of climate change. Now, the Kenyan delegation also had a closing session of their own yesterday, led by the head of the delegation there, Dr. Charles Mutai from the Ministry of Environment. And some of the key issues they were saying is that they need to have a common position, and that means that they have resolved they are going to have a follow-up mini summit in Nairobi in the coming weeks to develop clear positions ahead of another technical round of talks to be held in Bangkok. Now, the other issue is that there has not also been agreement. Remember, there was supposed to be these talks, the technical working sessions were also supposed to input in what would become the Paris rule book. The rule book is what basically is going to guide the world on how to deal with the effects of climate change. There has been no finality on that one as well, and therefore that issue also has to be deferred to the next round of technical talks to be held later on in Bangkok.
Here, we could have a law in Kenya, but the question is, do we have the capacity to implement that role? Under the Climate Change Convention, which we are discussing here, under the Paris Agreement, we are trying to see how those who have caused the problem of climate change will facilitate the processes like the implementation of the Kenya Green Economy Policy, the Kenya NCAP 2, National Climate Change Action Plan, which we are framing, and the general climate finance.
Thank you, Lilian Rodrida, for that comprehensive report from Bonn, Germany. Now, let me take you over to the west of this continent, and Liberia has declared a health emergency following 2 confirmed deaths of Lassa fever in Margibi County. According to the local health ministry there, the deaths occurred within 1 week. The victims were a couple aged 56 and 35 respectively. Margibi County Health Officer Yer Pajibo said the 60 people being monitored as close contacts of the victims. At least 14 people have died of Lassa fever in Liberia since the beginning of the year. Only 4 counties have been affected by Lassa fever in Liberia, which has a total of 15 counties. Humans usually become infected with the Lassa virus from exposure to urine or feces of infected mastomys rats. Other than common preventive measures such as washing hands regularly, the World Health Organization, that is WHO, has recommended keeping cats.
Admits that while the numbers are worrying, things could have been worse.
Now, over to a story that has raised a lot of attention across the world, and that is from North Korea. North Korea has released 3 American prisoners and handed them over to U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, clearing a major obstacle to an unprecedented summit between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The men who were freed after Pompeo met Kim were on their way home aboard the chief U.S. diplomat's plane and were welcomed by President Trump, who thanked Kim Jong-un for their release. The release has been praised by the White House as a quote-unquote gesture of goodwill, appeared to signal an effort by Kim to set a more favorable tone for the summit and followed his recent pledge to suspend missile tests and shut a nuclear bomb test site. The first ever North Korea-US summit is set to take place on June 12th in Singapore. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron was recognized for his contributions to European cohesion and integration, has received the Charlemagne Prize in Germany. In his acceptance speech, Macron praised the European project for maintaining a miraculous 70 years of peace on the continent and outlined his vision for the future. The French president called for more unity among member states and warned that the divisions that appeared during the Eurozone and migrant crisis risked undermining the EU project. Macron insisted that a common Eurozone budget was crucial to guaranteeing EU unity. And that report there from Germany takes Bottomline Africa to a very short break. But when we return, remember, we still have a lot for you, including that discussion tonight, which has everything to do with the deadly Ebola virus. This after it claimed the lives of 17 people in the DRC. What is being done to end this disease? Tonight, once again, I'll be speaking to the chief researcher from Kemri, Dr. Bernard Ogutu. I'm also going to speak to Meridi Baraka, who's a resident in the DRC. I'm also going to engage a man who has everything to do, with an experience when it comes to the Ebola virus. He's a clinical officer served in Sierra Leone and Liberia. That is Peterson Washira. We're going to have that discussion. But first, here is Destination Africa.